We're having this ceremony tonight because of community concerns regarding the sighting of coyotes over a period of time in May. I know some of you may see them more frequently, but we had several sightings the first 2 weeks of May, even in areas that are not normal to see them. We're hoping that by giving this ceremony, we want to educate our residents and hopefully dispel some of the myths and reduce some unnecessary fears about coyotes, and hopefully learn about their behavior, so that moving forward, we will be better prepared to respond to future incidents. This seminar is being videotaped, and that's being done so that residents who could not make it tonight could have the benefit of hearing this ceremony, this seminar, excuse me, and also learn from it. We are fortunate tonight to have 4 guest speakers here with us. The first is Frank Vicente. Frank is from Long Island, New York. He's the founder of the Wild Dog Foundation. Frank has done hundreds of these type of there I go again, seminars. Okay, seminars. In the New York, New Jersey metropolitan area. Excuse me?
By being made tonight?
Yeah, that's it. You're right. We're gonna give you some kind of ceremonial presentation. But anyway, he's done these seminars to educate people on the behaviors of coyotes, and really to educate people on how to safely coexist with them. Frank has worked with officials in Maywood and also in Hackensack back in 2011 when there was a problem in Forbes Woods, and several of the residents there were on edge. We also have Deborah Yankow in the audience. Deborah's in the back. Thank you, Deborah. Deborah's the director of the Bergen County Department of Health Services and the Bergen County Animal Shelter and Adoption Center. She has managed the animal shelter for the past 10 years and has been the director of health services for the last 3 years. Also with her from her office is Robert Harris. He's the Bergen County Supervising Animal Control Officer. And lastly, we have with us Dr. Mia Frezzo, who's the founder of the Hasbrook Heights Animal Hospital. She's been serving Bergen County residents for over 15 years and will provide us with some information on how to protect your pets and what to do if your pet is bitten or you're bitten, and some information on signs of rabies. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Frank.
I want to extend my gratitude and gratefulness to Mayor White and Christine and Chief Kugler and all of you from Saddlebrook, giving me this opportunity to speak to you in regards to coyotes and possibly get a better understanding of the animals that share the New Jersey communities with the public. I often, and I know I'm a New Yorker, so I'm an outsider technically, but I always use New Jersey as the perfect test for suburban and urban communities coexisting with wildlife, because technically New Jersey has the highest density of people per square mileage, and all this development in suburbia, and you have an abundant and healthy, robust wildlife population. Bears, deer, bobcat. There was a fellow from the state that was studying fishers several years ago. If you know what a fisher is, it's a big weasel that's we always thought was an animal of wilderness, but apparently they do well in suburban areas. We got one in the Bronx now. And the animal that I'm going to touch on here tonight, which unfortunately everybody's got an opinion about, and that's fine. Everybody has the right to their opinion. The animal is always, as you know, somewhere in between of what one side of the coin feels about them. And sadly, despite all the salacious headlines recently, and justifiably, things that have happened that should be of concern for the public, and the public should have knowledge about it. in reality, it's amazing how many coyotes do exist in suburban New Jersey and very rarely come into conflict with people. And that doesn't mean that it doesn't happen, but for the most part, coyotes tend to stick to themselves. There are ways to interact with coyotes in a safe way to get the message across to coyotes that, you know, this is our habitat and the coyote should play secondary. What you're seeing is animals that, you know, as they successfully breed in these urban and suburban communities and their young survive, and not all their young survive, they become complacent, they become used to people, they become used to our activities, and sometimes we could teach them, and a coyote is an incredibly intelligent animal that as quickly as they can learn poor behavior, they can certainly reverse and learn what, you know, I know this might sound funny for some people, but more appropriate behavior. Behavior that us as the public would be more tolerant of. My feelings of, you know, the coyotes that are living in the Saddlebrook Park have probably been in there for the last 2 or 3 years. They've been successfully breeding there. I guess it was 2 years ago I reached out to you, Chief Kugler, when you know, it was this time of the year, a concerned resident, whether they had an incident with their dog or they noticed an adult coyote with pups in the park. So they've been, you know, doing well and claiming the park as their own against other coyotes. Naturally, you know, I was just there. There's lots of people there, so it's amazing the tolerance that they have for that amount of disturbance. You know, people tend to think that, you know, wildlife, you know, they don't tolerate so much human, and you know, people have the right to be there at State Park, but you know, the coyotes have this incredible amount of tolerance for everything that's going on there, and even with the abundance of dogs walking through the park, although I'm going to get into coyote-dog interactions. So the way the coyotes probably came through and settled into Saddlebrook is they certainly used the corridor, as we call it, along the river. Maybe they came in through the train tracks that cross across there, and Saddlebrook is a beautiful habitat for them. These watercourses procure lots of rats, which is what I saw in Maywood and in Boggs Woods. The incredible thing about New Jersey, every time I come here, is I'm amazed that despite the high populace, which is a good thing, and the abundance of development. And it's not that we've pushed these animals out. These animals are actually, you know, evolving and adapting and coming back and settling into the places that we've, you know, claimed for many, many decades. Bears are a perfect example. You know, bears are starting to come back, you know, having to adapt to the change. And the coyote is a superb genius in dealing with that. You know, we see that in New York City. We probably all saw the coyotes this spring that we had in downtown Manhattan. They've never gotten that far south as far as we've, you know, been following them. Usually they either wind up in Central Park, and that's as far south as they go. But this spring, we had an unprecedented amount of coyotes in downtown Manhattan, probably going to the meatpacking district. Good clubs down there, but that's a New York joke. But you know, they clearly are adapting. These newer generations are adapting to even the most urban of environments, and this is true for New Jersey. Looking at the map of New Jersey, or even your local area here in Bergen County, or Saddlebrook, Maywood, Hackensack, you can clearly see all the wildlife corridors, as we call them. Just minute wooded areas, green space along rivers, along highways that wildlife use to get from one point to the next. And what happens in the case of coyotes is a young couple, so to speak, of coyotes, they come together in the winter during the mating season. They go off to start a family somewhere, to claim territory on their own. They travel, for instance, down the Saddlebrook River, and they wind up in the park, and they start to claim the park and defend it from other coyotes. And this really has nothing to do with people, because they know that we're people. It's usually, a defense of their rivals, other coyotes. And what you're going to see, especially here in Saddlebrook, is, like I said before, is that as these future generations survive, and it's not without hazards to themselves. They get hit by cars. In fact, all the coyotes from Borg's Woods were all hit by cars over a year period. So roads are still quite the peril, even though I've seen coyotes learn how to cross roads, to wait for traffic to die down and then go across it. Jaywalking, right, in some instances. But, unfortunately, some of them miscalculate the speed of cars, and that's what happens. But those that do survive, they start to tolerate the presence of people even more. And it's up to us to discern what we feel is abnormal and what is normal. And I'm not going to go into my whole spiel, my whole presentation. I'm just going to go into relevant images for what you're experiencing here in Saddlebrook and what they experienced in other New Jersey communities. You're not unique. You're among the many communities here in New Jersey that are experiencing resurgence of wildlife, healthy ecosystems, so to speak. We'll all watch National Geographic, and learn about ecosystems, but sometimes we always feel that ecosystems are far off in remote places when we have them in our own backyard, whether they're hawks or fox, coyote. And that's what you're experiencing here in New Jersey. You're experiencing an intact and complete ecosystem. What do you see in this image? You see a coyote that's relaxed in its environment, right? It's in looks like a town park, similar to Saddlebrook, right? And it's during the day. And to be honest with you, this is not abnormal. This is normal, right? I'm sure people are going to beg to differ with me, and we have experts here, veterinarians and animal control. Coyotes could be active during the day, especially this time of year when they have pups, all right? They're multitasking, so to speak. This time of the year, we're in we're July. The puppies are about 4 months old now, so they're fully weaned, okay? And they're pretty big, and they're very mobile, and they're very curious, and they're going to be out, and they're going to be playing, not minding, whatever else is going on. And the parents are either going to be resting up for the day, or they're going to be busy going back and forth, bringing whatever rodents back that they've consumed, or roadkill deer. And if you're familiar with wolves, and those of you that have dogs, it's the same behavior. They'll go and they'll regurgitate it. Hope everybody had dinner already. Bring it back to the pups and feed them that way. So they're busy day or night. Now, this is a clear indication of an animal that has gotten used to living in suburban and urban areas. Perhaps it wasn't harassed enough by the public. Perhaps it had gone on its daily life with very little interference, very little negative interaction. People, for the most part, a lot of people don't even realize that they have them in their community. And I believe this was probably the case 2 years ago when coyotes were first seen in Saddlebrook. They may have been there a year prior, and just as they became more used to the community, they became more visible. And you're going to see this, and you're seeing this all over New Jersey as well. A perfect example is recently, this past fall, in Inglewood Cliffs. You probably remember the media people were on the news, rightfully so. Citizens, concerned parents were upset that a family of coyotes were hanging out in a schoolyard. All right, now, that might not be a tolerable thing for the public. I totally understand that. But this is a classic case of animals that are used to the traffic. They're used to the noise, trains going by. Doesn't bother them anymore. They're used to hearing the noise of even children playing. It doesn't bother them. All right, as unnerving as it is, it's not necessarily a situation that might equate to a danger to the public. What it was in reality was it was the youngsters of that year, innocent as they were and innocent as the community was, just playing out in the open in the schoolyard. All right, easy thing to rectify. And I believe the state was called in, and they, I don't know exactly what they did, but I'm sure they fixed the situation.
They got rid of the 2 days.
They got rid of them?
Yes.
All right, well, whatever, you know, whatever people choose to do, that's their prerogative. But there are other ways to do it, you know, if people would, want to take the initiative on themselves, is chasing them, yelling at them. You know, understandably, people aren't all up to doing that, but it has worked. And that's what I did in Boggs Woods. When the Coyotes were living in Boggs Woods, you know, they pretty much kept to themselves. They would come out at night, hunt along the streets for rats or whatever. And when I saw them on the street, I would chase after them. It's basically what a lot of people in my position recommend, even the state. Certainly in that situation, the state felt it necessary to remove them because they were on school property. Totally understandable. But in other cases, if it's, you know, along the edges of a wood line or whatever, you could easily chase the animals off and scare them off. Especially when they're young animals, they're going to learn. They're going to learn that very quickly. Okay? So coyotes, despite learning complacent behavior, and again, if this is on private property or if this is in a situation where, you know, the public feels that there's a danger to the public, even though there's been no threatening behavior from the animals, then, I don't know, was there threatening behavior?
Yes.
There was? Are you from Inglewood, Cliffs?
No, say here.
There's been threatening behavior
Yes.
here.
Yes.
In regards to
People and animals.
dogs?
My wife and my dog, yeah,
Right.
amongst many others that
Yeah.
some of them aren't here right now. But
Yeah, I'm gonna go
Right.
into the dog and coyote situation. Right? You have to understand that you do live on the edge of where there's
I
a
live
wooded
right
area.
on the edge, right on the river.
Right. So, you know, that's where a lot of the conflicts are gonna be.
Yes,
is
there.
right, right at the edge. See, now this is usually the cause of most conflicts between people and coyotes. If coyotes aren't sick, you know, with rabies, which is what was experienced recently in Bergen County. Habitual feeding, such as this on the top, and no different than bears, you know, coyotes get used to being fed and they start to approach people in a very bold fashion, as this coyote on the bottom is doing here. Now, I know this is an unnerving situation, and I sympathize with you. I know that it's probably a scary situation. But in this situation here, what these people need to do is to act aggressively. It works. It works. This fellow right here is, you know, doing a foolish thing. He's also showing body language that is, in many ways, submissive. Coyotes are dogs, all right? I mean, they're not pet dogs, okay? But they learn very quickly. And they know that we're different. They know that we're humans. They don't see us as providers, like a domestic dog. But they do recognize this behavior. And this behavior shows to the coyote that, you know, you're a pushover, and I could demand whatever I want from you, which is what happens down at the bottom. So even when it gets to this point, you have to act aggressive. And if people feel better at throwing something towards them, or at them, or if you have a residence that's on the wooded edge and you have hose available, spray them with the hose. Some other organizations have recommended taking cans with rocks in it and shaking it, making lots of noise. Even I would go so far as, if you want to use bear spray, although it tends to be a little powerful for coyotes, you know, whatever you feel comfortable with. All right? But chasing them off and acting aggressive does work. I've done it. I've done it in Maywood. Those coyotes would avoid the streets when people are out from chasing after them. And it probably could work here at Saddlebrook.
I live next door to him. Where we live, it's the wooded area of the park. There's the river on one side of the path, the woods.
Are
and
you
there
on
homes.
Saddlebrook Road area?
On Saddle River Road. We're across Swim Club in Southbrook. Now, we've chased them out of our yards, we're chasing them into the park, and we're chasing them onto the path. where the-
I believe I
where the
read the
residents are.
message on Facebook, is that you?
Yes.
Yeah, no, you're
No.
doing the right.
No, I don't know if that was me. on Facebook.
Somebody wrote on Facebook that they have chased them off the path, and they
No,
have
that
run
wasn't
off,
me, but.
they have run off the path.
Well, we chase them, when we're chasing them out of our
Yeah.
yard, we're chasing them onto the path. So
Right.
we see, we've chased them into people,
Right.
but it's like a ping pong. You
Yeah.
know, they're chasing them to us, we're chasing them to
Right.
them. And that area is secluded enough where you have the entrance in and the entrance out. So if you're a person, it's not like where you can cut through somebody's yard.
Right.
You're kind of stuck by us, and that's where we've seen before, and now there's pups there.
Right.
So we don't even know how many are there, we just know that they're there.
Right, well, you know, I believe you. There's probably, if you saw 4 adults, so that's probably the extent of the adults, because you'll have the alpha male and female, and there might be 1 or 2 from the previous year that stay with them, depending on how good it is, food-wise or whatever. You're doing all the right things, and clearly, and I know that this is unnerving by facial expressions, my friend, is that, it's working, because they're obviously running from you. But everybody's got to be on board with this. The whole community has to be on board. If people are chasing them off the path, and you're chasing them from your property, which you have the right to do, and I will help you with that. That's why I'm here. That's why I came here. All right? I'd be happy to help you. All right? They'll get the message. That harassment is what works. And a lot of communities, unfortunately, don't do enough of the harassment, because that'll make them either move the pups to a more quieter area, because chances are the reason why they are so vigilant there, so to speak, is because the pups are close by. All right? And in regards to dogs, which I'm going to get into, if you forgive me, in regards to dogs, say it again?
We're gonna let you finish.
All right.
Interrupting you, sorry.
This time.
No, that's all right. I'm here to help you.
We'll let you finish.
All right. I just don't want too much recording. In regards to dogs, we have to understand the basics. Coyotes and dogs are basically the same animal. So coyotes are going to view dogs in the same territorial fashion that other dogs would view other dogs. And especially this time of the year, coyotes are especially anxious about the presence of dogs, is because of those youngsters. And again, you're doing all the right things. See now, are dogs supposed to be leashed in the park? They have to be leashed, all right? Yeah, that is the best way to, in many ways, be preventative of any kind of interaction with coyotes and dogs. If your dog is off leash, unfortunately, you have no control of at least your dog, all right? You see, this dog is off leash, and playing within a park. Coyotes obviously den there, so this coyote is approaching the dog aggressively. Other situations, coyotes and dogs, a den is close by, and unfortunately this coyote is coming up to this larger dog and trying to get it to move off by nipping it in the rear end. I'm trying to prevent it from ever getting to this point. That the harassment does work. They will get the message. It might have to be a constant thing, but eventually they'll move the pups either further up. I don't know how more wooded. I'm not from here, so I didn't walk the park. I'm just assuming that further up in the Saddlebrook Park there's more wooded areas. Maybe they'll move them up there so they can stay away from it. But it's the right thing to do, and I will even help you do that. All right, you have all my contacts there to get contact. Now, are you the woman that they approached on the trail?
That was his wife.
It's your wife. All right. Again, that is a result of when they have young. All right.
It was in October.
It was in October.
Yeah, right after Hurricane Sandy.
All right. Well,
A lot of these things that you're saying are true, but we can't be honest with these guys.
so what happened in October?
I'll let you finish.
No, I want to know because I'm going to do it by a case-by-case basis. So
All right. Is everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Or do you want them to finish?
I think they want to know.
Okay. basically what happened was after Hurricane Sandy, that's when we started seeing them, all right, around by us, down here, right over here. I'm sure they were up further off, and I'm sure they might have been here before, but after Sandy we saw them. So my wife was running with my dog on leash, as usual, in the morning, like 4:35 in the morning. With other runners, bikers out there, pretty, for that time it's crowded. These dogs, one came and stood right in front of my dog, while he sent, almost like in like the Lion King, he sent the other two around to try to attack my dog, while my wife was trying to stand there yelling at it, this and that.
What kind of breed dog do you have? Small breed dog?
Yeah, he's like a Basset Hound Australian Shepherd, so he's like 50 pounds.
Right.
Okay, small enough to be attacked by these animals.
Right.
So, not a grandparent. So basically, thank God for Sandy, there were these huge branches everywhere. She grabbed a branch and basically beat them off
Right.
till she could walk backwards while they were stalking her and, like, just waiting for a chance to attack.
Right.
That happened to many people, not just my wife since then.
Well, unfortunately,
Aggressive behavior, and they're now in people's backyards, fighting in people's backyards,
fighting each other.
each other. There are cats missing along Rochelle Parkway.
Right. Well,
There are a lot less bunnies,
yeah. Yeah.
a lot less geese, and the deer are doing pretty
Wait,
well.
a lot
Although they
less
have
deer,
attacked,
a lot less geese?
although
I'm
they have.
surprised that you're complaining. Unfortunately, most communities would be happy that there were less geese.
I know, let's not make
on the
light
other
of the
hand, like the
situation.
geese.
Let's not talk about it. It's not a geese problem,
Right.
or a goose problem, really.
Right.
Okay?
And have you called the state?
First I called the police, then I called the town. Then they told me we can't do anything, then I called Newark, and then I called the state, and they said exactly the same thing. We can't get rid of them unless they attack someone. That's not true.
So what have
That's not exactly true.
Right. Well,
There are certain behavior and symptoms of behaviors that are almost like leading indicators to attack.
well, see now, there are researchers that believe that to be the case, but a lot of that could be coincidental. Now,
Coincidental to what? Living here and then having an animal get attacked and a
well,
person?
I mean, if it's happening that often, I'm surprised that nobody's responded as you
Everybody
said.
calls the police. Everyone does. They can't do anything. Or they say they can't do anything, and they don't even
And
respond.
there's been
People call
no
police.
aggressive tactics like paintballs or.
No.
What I recommend is,
Okay.
the soft pellet guns. You know what those
I'd
are?
love to carry one around. I was going to carry a larger pellet gun.
Well, the soft pellet guns
Yeah.
are enough to sting them and let them get the message.
Uh-huh.
All right, and
I agree. That's good.
if
That's a
that's
good
what
idea.
how you feel safe doing, then by all means.
So people are going to carry pellet guns around in the park?
I'm
just-
sure
I'm just-
the mayor doesn't want
Can you
that.
just finish your thing so that we can
No,
get on?
so-
Let's not have a dialogue.
so you-
We can go outside and talk, but it's
Well,
not the point.
then what do you want? You want them
Right.
removed? Do you want them trapped and removed?
I want you to finish. Say everything you need to say.
Well, we have other speakers.
I don't want everyone to say everything they need to say.
That's probably the best bet. Let all the speakers talk, save your questions.
Exactly.
Okay?
Right. You're right.
Robert's rules.
My apologies.
Okay.
I'm trying. I
I
want to
know,
help.
keep going, it's okay.
Eh?
I'm from New York too.
All right.
I'm from Long Island as well.
All right. You got
All
something
right,
going.
I moved to more civilized place.
Right. All right, well, basically, this is exactly what your wife experienced, this situation here. Although your wife was being responsible with the dog on the leash, all right? Here's a situation with a dog off the leash. Coyotes are being territorial with the dog. That's the basic explanation of that behavior. And of course, she did the right thing by fighting back. That's all I can recommend, So, these are other interactions with dogs, okay? The dog chasing coyote approaching a dog. In that sense, again, what you'll probably experience along Saddle Brook River is a lot of unfenced properties, okay, where wildlife could traverse through there. And that's why the coyotes have access to these properties, is because there's no barriers. Now, I'm not saying to put up fencing, of course not, but that's why you have these interactions. That's why wildlife is living in proximity to people. All right. Again, Most of this, although you people are all responsible, Saddlebrook, you keep your dogs leashed, you have the right to enjoy the park. A lot of these images are unfortunately people that aren't being responsible. The dogs were off leash. Perhaps they didn't know there was a coyote presence there. Perhaps they did. But keeping dogs leashed is always the safest bet. And acting aggressively. And like I said, I will help in this whole situation. It's what I want to do for you. Okay, as you can see, there's quite a bit of food down there. I mean, that's a fox right there. That's not a coyote, but this certainly is a way to lead to conflict with wildlife. Limiting the amount of food you put out for cats that are outdoors. Again, cats and coyotes are a complicated matter. There's no doubt, and I know unfortunately, some of these images are graphic. Coyotes do, in fact, prey on cats here and there. I don't know the situation of the cats that have gone missing, if they were indoor or outdoor cats, or if they were wild feral cats that are, within the environment. A lot of the feral cats actually learn how to avoid coyotes, which is what they've seen in other studies. Now, I'm not saying that that's pertinent to Saddlebrook. Maybe it was a unique situation, trying to be objective, all right? But in most cases, cats really don't factor in too much overall in coyotes' diet. That might have been different here in Saddlebrook. It might be, too, that because Saddlebrook, the park, is limited, all right, it's a narrow strip of land, so the coyotes are limited in where they could go. They have very few resources outside of the park. Unfortunately, they could possibly prey on whatever cats that are frequently in the park. Again, those of you that have indoor-outdoor cats, that's your prerogative. Usually keeping cats indoors, if they're pets, is the safest bet for them against traffic, against people that put poison out for them. I'm sure our veterinarian and animal control could attest. People put antifreeze out for cats. Coyotes are just one of the hazards living in suburban areas, but there are ways to be preventative. Again, your situation might be unique. I got to tell you something about feral cats that go missing. All right? What I've seen, too, is sometimes if they were an unneutered colony, and I'm sure the veterinarian could justify this, is that strange males come in, and if they're unneutered, just like lions, they'll kill the kittens that are in that unneutered colony, all right? In order to get the females back into heat so they could mate with them, just like lions. So I've seen in other areas where cats have gone missing, or young cats, kittens, or is this to be the case, is that strange males come in and try to take over and try to get the females into estrus. So other predators tend to get the blame. Now, I'm not saying that that's the case here. All right? Last thing I want to talk about, and then, is that common diseases here in Bergen County and even up into New York State is sarcoptic mange. The veterinarian and animal control and the Board of Health will tell you even further. Highly contagious, very common in coyote and fox in New Jersey and in New York. Because of their social nature with each other, the sarcoptic mange, which is a microscopic mite, is easily transferred to each other. And as you see, from the mite burrowing into the skin, the animal scratches the hair off and looks pretty grotesque. Totally different than an animal you would see with a healthy coat that's not with mange. Mange, and I'm sure the veterinarian could go into it better. Mange itself isn't fatal, but it can lead to secondary infections or problems. In some cases, make animals prone to other diseases like rabies, where they, in the case of coyotes, where they could deteriorate so much because they're so busy scratching that they don't eat, that they may scavenge an animal that had died from rabies and contract the disease. I'm going to just go into what I know about rabies real quick, and in regards to the situation here. Excuse me. In reality, rabies in coyotes is very rare. Despite the recent incidents that have happened in Bergen County, there could be many theories as to why that is. Perhaps with the cold winter, the tough winter had something to do with it that made animals more prone to interact with each other where they usually wouldn't. Rabies in coyotes, because coyotes are smart and they learn about their whole area and individual animals that reside in their area, they learn abnormal behavior. Animals that might not be exhibiting what coyotes are used to. All right, and that's in the case of the main vectors of rabies, which unfortunately are raccoon and skunk here in Bergen County and even in New York. And it's mostly because of their abundance. Raccoons and skunk are one of the more abundant carnivores in the environment, so that makes them more prone to these diseases to go through their population. Coyotes being at the top of the food chain, they would naturally occur at lower densities or numbers, so that would, drastically reduce the incidence of them contracting the disease. Now, what happens is that reading the rabies records, and of course, they would go into this better. Up until recently, I believe in the last 25 years, there's only been 5 confirmed coyote rabies cases. Am I right with those figures, or I'm reading the New Jersey rabies, 5 confirmed rabies incidents with coyotes throughout the state until, unfortunately, recently with the incident that happened at the beginning of the year with the sportsman that was in the woods that was attacked by the coyote, and the 2 incidents that happened here in Bergen County in Saddle River and Norwood. Now, they could certainly get into the behaviors of rabies more in depthly, but with coyotes, they could act in ways that might seem normal, but there are things to look for. Confusion, an animal that's confused. They're not necessarily stumbling, which usually indicates canine distemper, which is a neurological disease. Rabies, I guess, is technically not an encephalitis, right? But it could be termed an encephalitis because of the inflammation of the brain, that it's spread through the nervous system. The reason being is why it's contagious via bites is that the nerve endings reside at the end of the gums. So animals that are secreting the virus through their saliva when they bite, that's how the disease gets transferred. Now, the 2 incidents, the one in Saddle River and the one in Norwood, the elderly fellow that unfortunately was bitten, I mean, he did the right thing. He had no idea that the animals were sick. He didn't even know that they were denning in his yard. And that's probably the reason why the animal came back to the residence, is that she had a den there. And despite the fact that she was dying from rabies, she had this attachment to that area. He did the right thing by chasing her off, because she did run off. But she did come back because of the attachment to the area. They could probably tell you better. Rabies is something that the public should be aware of. Vaccinating pets, which I believe is state law, right? State law in New York. So that's the best way to keep your pet safe. And the fellow in Norwood, unfortunately, the animal was following him while he was walking his dog. And he panicked, which understandably, and ran. And that instigated the chase. Now, coyotes, especially canines, when they're suffering from rabies, they seem to be easily agitated. I know it's an unnerving situation, but that's what triggered that response from the coyote. Perhaps if he didn't run, if he calmly walked away, maybe the coyote wouldn't have given chase. We could say whatever, but in reality, I really don't know what further to add since my methods are not necessarily going to be acceptable. But, again, I'm here to help you, whether you want to believe it or not. Certainly I have the history. I reached out to Chief Kugler 2 years ago, which is about the time when Hurricane Sandy, my friend. Hopefully I could be of service to you, in this regard. I guess we'll let the veterinarian and the animal control speak. Thanks.
Thank you for having Bob and myself to this meeting. We're the animal control company that your town contracts with. We are your first line of defense with the coyote situation. We have been actively dealing with coyotes this entire year, probably more so than in the past. Coyotes are very smart animals. They're ones that are in our communities far and wide, not just Saddlebrook. Most of the towns that we contract with have had coyotes. We probably are still getting, because we do formal reports to Fish and Wildlife with coyote sightings or coyote mortalities. We're required to report everything that comes our way. We probably have 1 or 2 a week still, coyote sighting reports. In the Englewood Cliff situation, we do animal control. You brought up Englewood Cliff, sir. We do animal control for Englewood Cliffs. We were the individuals on site at that situation. It was our traps that were there. Just to clarify that, we spent a great deal of time and energy monitoring those traps. You guys need to understand that coyotes are very smart. They don't trap. It's almost impossible to trap a coyote. We went so far, and we still do, because we do have some traps active still in different towns in Bergen County. We go so far as we go to a butcher and we buy actual meat scraps and bones to entice them with food to get them to come into traps. And it really, really doesn't work. I'm going to touch on the feral cat piece for a minute, if you don't mind. One of the things that causes the huge conflicts with wildlife in general in the towns that we work with is the inadvertent feeding of feral cat colonies and people going and dumping 2 pounds of cat food at the cat colony down the street and in the middle of the night, and there's very little regulation of that piece. And what that does is the cats are overfed, and what you're doing is you're promoting the feeding of all the wildlife in the neighborhood, and you're attracting the wildlife to those locations. And that also includes coyote, because they will also prey upon the cats and the other wildlife in that area. One of the things that I've been working very hard at since I've been director at the shelter is training people in how to take care of feral cat colonies properly, how to trap those cats, how to get them spayed and neutered to prevent what you were talking about with the males coming in, with the fighting at night, with the murdering of kittens and all that stuff. If you manage feral cat colonies in a controlled way that's regulated, and you come and feed them an X amount of food certain times of the day, in the morning and in the evening and things like that, you start reducing the wildlife issues immensely, and you also start reducing the feral cats, because they stop reproducing, they stop having kittens, they stop transmitting rabies. You know what I'm saying? So all these issues come hand in hand. It's not just one piece. Coyote is one piece. We deal with all kinds of wildlife on a daily basis by us. And there's one of the things that people like you guys don't understand is we're required to act under state law. There are state statutes that guide what we're allowed to do and what we're not allowed to do. We're not allowed to go in there and shoot coyote. We're not allowed, we have regulations that guide us for how we can conduct our business. And one of the things is that's by Fish and Wildlife. And they guide us with what we're allowed to do and what we're not allowed to do. And Officer Harris has been doing animal control and dealing with coyotes for many, many, many years. And one of the things that he and I've talked extensively about are the humane deterrents. How to keep animals out of your yard, how to keep the coyotes away. That's one of the things that we brought a device that is produced by a company called Have a Heart. And Have a Heart is a company that produces, any of you who've ever bought animal traps, they produce all kinds of animal traps and devices that deter, catch, deal with wildlife, feral cats, whatever. And a simple device like that may actually help. It's not that expensive. It's solar powered, and it holds 3.5 gallons of water. It doesn't need to be connected to a hose. It doesn't need to be plugged in, and it has laser sensors. So every time an animal, not just a coyote, a deer, raccoon, if it enters onto your property, it literally shoots it with this huge blast of water, and it scares it away. They don't like that. And it doesn't hurt anything, and it doesn't put chemicals in your yard, and it doesn't poison your cats. And it's something that you can physically move from one location to another. You should be moving it. So that one night the coyote crosses through, he gets whacked with this thing, he's going to think twice, and he comes back another time, gets whacked again. He's going to think twice before coming through your yard. And that's something that's perfectly safe and easy. It's sort of, I think, I call it a no-brainer. You know what I'm saying? So these are the kinds of deterrents that we work on to help you coexist with wildlife. Because folks, the wildlife isn't going away. The coyotes aren't going away. Whether you like them or not, they're not going away. We have to figure out ways of coexisting with them so that you feel safe, we can do our jobs under statutes, and your children are safe, and your property is safe. You know, we do the same thing with feral cats, with nuisance animals. You're not, you know, under state law, you're allowed to not have cats in your yard. Nuisance cats are trappable, because it doesn't matter they belong to the colony down the road. If they're not yours and you don't want them in your yard, guess what, guys? We got to come trap them and get them away out of your yard. You know what I'm saying? So we have a lot of ways of helping you, just like Frank has a lot of ways of helping you, but we can't go in there with guns and shoot them. It's against the law. We're not allowed. So the point is, I'm going to let Bob talk to you a little bit more about some of the other ways that you can keep the coyotes out of your property, out of your yard, keep yourselves protected, and yet find a way to coexist with them. It would be nice, you know, it's amazing the amount of wildlife that we have in Bergen County. In my town, we have a lot of red fox. A few years ago, the red fox in Bergen County had a huge situation with mange. A lot of them are wiped out. Now they're coming back again. You know what I'm saying? So coyote are also very prone to mange. So they can also be cyclical. If you start getting a bunch of coyotes coming around with mange, guess what? They're going to start disappearing for a while because they die. The fox all died too from it. So it's sort of, nature kind of takes its own course at times. It's just this year has been really extensive in the coyote, the public relations piece of coyotes, and the fact that we had 2 in Bergen County with rabies. We had a 3rd coyote that we brought in from another town who was sick, that we tested for rabies, and she didn't have rabies, but we tested her anyways because she was sick. You know, so we didn't know what was wrong with her, but that was being responsible, because if this animal did have rabies, the community needed to know that, because we didn't know what kind of exposure there may or may not have been. You know, hopefully there was none then that we were aware of, but still we try to go on. You know, rabies is a fatal disease, so we try very hard to err on caution when dealing with rabies. I'd rather, if there's any question of exposure, I'd rather test for rabies and know what's going on than say, well, maybe it didn't scratch somebody, maybe it did. But you better be safe than sorry. If you're wrong and you get it wrong, there's not much help you're going to get. By the time you figure it out, it's too late. So, anyways, I thank you for letting us serve your town. We're all going to be available for questions later. I'm going to let Bob talk to you a little bit about some deterrents and what you can do, and just the history of coyotes in the area in general. And thank you for having us.
Coyote are in every town in Bergen County. Saddlebrook is not unique. With all due respect, it's a beautiful, wonderful town. So are most of the other towns in Bergen County. And these animals, I have yet to be in a town where the residents haven't come with the answer that or with the statement, I don't want them hurt, I just want them removed from here and taken there. And I always ask, well, where is there? Because there's people living there who want to move from their here and move to your there. It's the same everywhere. So it's learning how to deal with them and keep them under control. The way they are kept under control is harassment, is literal harassment, and that's what it takes. So, to have a heart device, which is one of the latest premier items out there, so to speak, and there are many less expensive ones, varieties of even that type of device, that connect to hoses that are movable around yards. And I tell everybody, any kind of deterrent you use should be movable, because you don't want it you don't want it stationary, you want it to be showing up in a different location each time an animal arrives. Coyote, certainly wood rats and field mice are their early main diet. However, I've got a little bit of knowledge on a number of the subjects, so I'm going to be a pain and I'm going to expand on it a little bit, if I may. Okay? Bourne's Woods, unless you remove them, they didn't get hit by car. They cleared the area.
They must have come back, because there was a couple of roadkill on Spring Valley. A couple of the pups were hit by cars.
A couple of the pups, yes.
And,
The adults,
One of the residents told me that they saw one of the adults with a compound fracture. This is going back 2-3 years ago. This is a while ago. Of course, the turnover is high. Once they get wiped out or they leave, another resident comes in.
I worked that area from the first year that the first male showed up, through his getting a mate, through the entire cycle of clearing the entire area of all prey. Everything got eaten. All the squirrels, all the rabbits, all the groundhogs, all the skunks, all the feral cats, and we had numerous feral cat complainants prior to the coyote showing up. And gradually the feral cat complaints completely evaporated. And the last year, which was about 3 years ago, as I went through, there was not even a squirrel's nest in all of that territory. It was completely decimated of all prey, and then the coyotes moved on.
Could I just interject? The year that I was there, right, they had den there. The counselor that lived along the edge of the woods.
No argument. It went on.
Right.
It went on for 6 years.
Right, well, everybody
It was a
claimed,
6-year cycle.
everybody claimed that the squirrels weren't there, but I had hiked through there numerous times during the day, and I had seen squirrels there. I'm not saying that what your
Frank,
observation is
I'm
wrong.
not going to.
Hey,
I don't know what year you were there. I know what I personally witnessed. Okay. Now, Saddle River, the Saddlebrook or Saddle River County Park, which is in excess of 20 miles long. Okay, if one considers its full domain.
Perfect corridor.
It's the perfect greenway for all wildlife, all right? And living on the edge of it brings with it the wildlife. So, basically, I agree absolutely with Frank that the animals you have that you know, and that know the territory and learn, and they will learn where it's acceptable and where it's not acceptable, what actions are acceptable. And they will learn this from us. If we step back from them, they're top dog on the street. If we are aggressive towards them, they will flee. And they will learn that. That becomes a learned habit. They won't think twice about it. And that is what it does take. It takes light, it takes noise, it takes action that frightens them. And those steps, if you're out there walking in the park, and I've spent many hours in the park. In fact, I used to bicycle it daily. I don't have that time or the muscles anymore, but I used to, all right? And I would never think of being out there without a whistle, without some means of protecting myself, because there will always be wildlife out there. There's raccoon, there's skunk, there's all types of creatures out there. It's part of the environment. The coyotes are feeding off of those things, but they're looking for a handout and they're looking for a free meal. And if your property runs alongside them, consider water blasters, which there's a lot of different varieties. Just go online, look under pest deterrents.
Amazon. They're all on Amazon.
I won't support a particular individual source. I will tell you the source at myriad for devices that are out there. And keep these devices moving around on your property so that the animal never knows it was there. If you do that, then your property does not become a safe haven when you are not home. And that is the problem. How much time do you spend in your backyard on an average basis? I'll say weekly to all of you. A couple hours, a few hours, out of 168 hours a week. The rest of it belongs to the creatures that can use it when you're not there. Frightening them away when you're not there is what you need to do. Okay? These are the steps to take. Again, where I live, I deal with all of this. We have everything from scarecrows, whose eyes flash when they see motion. It's just a setup utilizing a couple of easily available things that are out there and building a scarecrow, something we used to do when we were kids. We grew up in the woods, okay? Pinwheels, motion. I've got everything from the guy sawing the log to the dog being chased by the cat. That'd be unique. All different types of whirligigs and things, because all that motion and moving it around is frightening to animals. They're not expecting it. They wonder what it is. Stay away from a lot of the things that are being sold in gardening stores, supposedly to deter things that are eating your vegetation. Because the things that eat your vegetation are vegetarians, prey to carnivores. So, you can keep the groundhogs out of your yard by buying dried coyote urine and sprinkling it down around your yard, because the groundhog's going to smell it and say there's a carnivore here and it's going to leave. The coyote's going to smell it and say, I've got competition in my territory. I better lay claim to this territory while I can, because I can't see him and I don't know where he is, but I smell him. These are all steps that need to be thought beyond. Same goes with fox urine and all these other things. Dried blood meat. Well, who's attracted to dried blood? A carnivore. Scares away vegetarians, attracts carnivores. These are the steps to take. Now, we have officers on duty 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They've responded to hundreds of coyote concerns over a period of time. Norwood. Yes, there was a rabid male coyote. His mate, female, remained in the area because she had 4 pups. And that's what kept returning her to the area. She had 4 pups out there, who happened to be in a den 2 houses from a school. All right? Why was there a den 2 houses from a school? Because a resident did not take the steps of scaring away the coyote from day one. He thought it was kind of cute to look out in his backyard and see coyotes. And so therefore, the human action created the situation that unfortunately cost the coyote family its life. It created an awful lot of concern amongst folks. far as the mail goes, as to how it got exposed, it's a very good question, and we honestly will never know the answer to that, but it was raccoon variant rabies.
Yeah, they
So
tested it.
most likely, a male killed a rabid raccoon and got bitten in the process. If there's one specifically acting in a funny way, certainly the police department has access to our officers through the county police system, and they'll respond. But more likely than not, all they're going to do is know that it was there 20 minutes ago because they're never hanging in a location. They run. As far as the trapping goes in Englewood Cliffs, and Chief, I don't know. We had traps out there for close to 5 months in Englewood Cliffs, with lots of sightings of the coyote. After the weaning season was over, the coyotes were not seen again. Last time I spoke to the chief, he said, we've gotten no complaints in a long time. I pulled the traps out there. That's what I know of that situation. We get these concerns on a regular basis, but we all need to learn how to get them to understand their role and our role. We are the top predator in the region. They are beneath us. And that is the way it goes. So, again, lights, noise. You're out walking in the park. I don't know how the police department's going to feel about a whole bunch of cat guns out there. I can't answer that. The noise is a lot less concerning than actual projectiles. Under state firearms regulation or statutes, I should say, under statutes, animal control does not have the legal authority to carry tranquilizer dart guns. So that is a tool we are not permitted to have by legislative decision. The only people permitted to have it are fish and wildlife agents in the performance of during their duty. That's it. For them to come up, they are in Clinton. They're looking at a 2-hour drive. When it comes to a bear, we have to have it treed and be willing to stay under the tree until they can get there. And that's the only way they will respond with that type of equipment. It has to be a situation such as that because they have, I believe, a total of 6 agents in the State Department covering 21 counties in the entire state, 570 municipalities. So we can understand that they're a little short-handed also. I think that's it.
My name is Mia Frezzo, and I own Animal Hospital in Hasbrook Heights. I originally came as a spectator, and I wasn't really aware that there would be a presentation here. But I'm happy to help you. I think that one of the main concerns is how we can protect our pets. We certainly want to keep them rabies vaccinated. We never really want to get into that confrontation. That's where all their advice comes in. We really don't want to have any confrontation between our pets and coyotes that bring rabies right into our backyard. However, rabies vaccination is essential. It's essential to protect all of you. I don't vaccinate our dogs and cats for their safety alone, but to protect all of you as well. So I think that in addition to what everybody has said here, I encourage you not to feed feral cats. I encourage you to do the right thing and relocate them with the help of animal control, get them spayed and neutered. Making yourself really big, and that's going to be quite useful. So make yourself big and loud and really scary. If you think about what a pet looks like when it's playing and when it's afraid, do absolutely the opposite. So if it's going to cower, it's a victim. You want to be big and loud and scary. I think starting to carry things like whistles and perhaps little pepper sprays, noisemakers, really helpful. Keep your dog leashed. And actually, a real leash is far safer than a flexi lead. Your dog is on a flexi lead and you're walking, but you don't really have close control. That pet goes out several feet from you and you're no longer in control. So I have a real leash, and I certainly encourage you to train your pets. Train your dogs to walk nicely and behave with you. The last thing you want to do is be confronted with a coyote and have a misbehaving dog distracting you. Train your dog to behave with you. Keep it close. And just be protected. There are some little devices that pets can wear. You've probably seen them right on their collar, flashing lights, which are really nice. They're nice if you're walking at night. They're certainly going to be a deterrent. Lights on your shoes, reflective gear is all helpful. So I would be creative and safe. Most of the time, coyotes, as you've seen, are not interested in us, but we're living right where they live. We need to just protect ourselves as best we can. So I invite you to ask me individual questions. I'm not sure what you're exactly looking for. I didn't prepare anything for tonight.
As someone who manages a very large municipal shelter, we get stray dogs in every day and stray cats in every day. You know, one of our jobs is to bring these animals into the shelter so they don't get hit by cars, and hopefully their owners will come and collect them up. We're required by state law to hold them for 7 days. If you don't come within 7 days, they become ours. Probably, I'm going to make a generous guess, probably 75 to 80% of the animals that come into my shelter that are owned never have a rabies vaccine, have never seen a vet, there's no proof of ownership. I have 3 dogs in the building right now that came in the past 2 days. All the owners come into me, they've come looking for their dogs. We're not allowed by state statute to return those dogs to them because they don't have a license, they don't have a rabies, they don't have anything that proves that they own those dogs. And a big education piece that I'm going to start working on is educating people what to do with their dogs. I mean, it scares me that so many people own dogs that have no vaccines at all and are not legally licensed under state statute. So license your pets. Get them vaccinated for rabies, not just for this, but what if they get out? You know, I don't want to keep your dog. But guess what? I can't give him back to you if you can't prove to me he's yours. You see what I'm saying? And people don't understand that. So I'm just sharing that little tidbit with you. I'm taking an opportunity.
If I may add 2 pieces to that, because rabies is required by law, every town offers a free rabies clinic. So it doesn't have to cost you anything.
We do them every other Thursday at the shelter too.
They're available, so getting your pet vaccinated against rabies is available and free. It's supposed to be convenient. The second part is microchip your pets. If your pet gets loose, doesn't happen to have a collar on, breakaway collar on, the cat comes off, the microchip is going to really help you to be reunited with your pet. And it really works. So every pet should be microchipped. That's your safest bet, with no other identification tag to say this is my dog or cat and get it back to you.
Yes.
Anything else?
Another question. Will dog and a coyote mate or vice versa?
I'm sorry.
Will a dog and a coyote mate together?
Well, I don't think in this type of situation that's a concern. I think that they're genetically similar enough that it could possibly happen. But I think it's quite unlikely that this is going to be a realistic possibility.
Coyotes and dogs are in the same genus, just like wolves. They could reproduce and have fertile offspring. But what people need to realize is coyotes only come into heat one time of the year, in January. So through domestication, domestic dogs have a random breeding cycle because naturally they have people that fend for them, so they don't have to time their young to being born at an appropriate time of the season. So it's not that it hasn't happened. Certainly they've done the genetic work of coyotes here in the Northeast, and even wolves in North America. At some point, when dogs were in a primitive state with Aboriginal people, the heating cycles were similar because dogs were still semi-wild. Those genetics got passed through genealogy. They get passed down from one generation to the next. Our coyotes here do have a little bit of dog genes in them from many, many hundreds of generations ago. But for it to happen in abundance or willy-nilly, it's almost impossible. For most part, coyotes like other coyotes, you know, and wolves like wolves. But, you know, they can have fertile offspring, which is unique for that genus. What? What'd you say? Your social life?
You're bringing me to another point, that all dogs and cats should be spayed or neutered.
Right.
We don't need hormones contributing to conflict here. So, spay and neuter, microchip, rabies vaccinate, be safe.
Can coyotes, with this lack of food, can coyotes form a pack and start attacking?
Coyotes live in a social unit, much like wolves. You know, like these people
10,
witnessed
20
were,
maximum.
just because they've eaten, if we're going to get into attacks on people, it's very complicated. Obviously, I'm going to offend people with my opinions, but coyotes really don't see humans as prey. All right, they could become bold when they're food habituated. All right, which is what I showed you. If unfortunately they come down with an illness like rabies, where they become aggressive, and they get mad rabies, which seems to be more of a tendency with canids, dogs. Because coyotes are in a social unit, you know, unless they're in a situation like these people described, where there is usually a dog involved, because they're being territorial to the dog. All right, unfortunately, people tend to factor in, because people are, you're shaking your head. You're welcome to interject.
I'm shaking my head because you're again stating misinformation. Coyotes have attacked kids in their backyard in New Jersey.
There was an incident in Middletown,
Right.
which was, if you read into the truth, if you look into the total situation, the animals were being fed, food habituated. It did not come out into the press. All right, coyotes are living amongst you. They're not hunting people every day, right?
Okay, we're gonna have a question and answer period. I just have one question that I want to ask Robert. It has to do with this gentleman's description of what happened to his wife with when she was walking her dog, running with the dog in the park early in the morning. If that happened, if he or his wife had called that incident in, saying, we just experienced this, and there was 3 coyotes that surrounded us, and we had to scare them away with a stick. What would be done with that? If you got that call, would anything happen, or would it just be, you know, that this is normal behavior? In other words, I guess the question I'm asking is, what has to happen before something is done to get, you know, to trap and identify and get these coyotes and look at them to see maybe that coyote or those coyotes were rabid. You know what I mean? To me, I'm looking at it from just a layman's point of view. It's a scary situation, and a resident, you know what? You're not going to convince him or his wife that perhaps something should have been done, maybe to look into, at least find these coyotes and say, well, are they sick? Are they rabid? You know, should his wife even run in the park anymore? You know what I mean? So my question is, what would be, if you got that call, what would you do? If the police department in Saddlebrook called you, Robert, and said, this just happened, exactly the way he described it, what would be the response? That's my question.
If the officers on duty received a call that there were 3 coyotes in the process of attacking a resident, they would respond immediately. Whoever was on duty to attempt to respond to the scene, that response, depending upon where they are, if they're in Teterboro, it would take them 10 minutes or less to get there. Should they see those coyotes, most likely what they would do, and this is, I also should have added this earlier. No matter what you're out there with, you're always carrying the greatest weapon available in this type of situation, which is that. Okay? Literally. If they witness the coyotes, they will observe their actions. Are they going to be able to capture them? I will go back and I will tell you that with all due respect, and I've been doing this, as I've already stated, I've been working for the county 18 years. I have set traps in hundreds of circumstances and have never caught a single coyote. In discussions with the state biologist who's responsible for the coyote, Anthony McBride, his attempts to capture coyote in what we know publicly as a humane trap, a box trap, has had the same results I've had. And he's been doing this his entire career, and I think he's worked with the state close to, it's well in excess of 20, going on 30 years. Okay, the only successful means in the wild of capturing coyote are with what are known as snares. Basically a wire loop hung over a path, and that is how they are caught. It is either that or shooting them. So effectively, we have no tools that are going to be effective in that realm. What I have learned is that our putting out the traps with the bait that we put out, which we have a butcher who is very, very happy at Hackensack, as Ms. Yankow has explained, selling his scraps. What I've learned is that as soon as I start putting those traps out, the coyote leave the area. They stop. They stop working the area where I'm putting those traps, and they move on. So, would we put out a trap? Sure. Would it have that effect? Do we have enough of them? We're talking a fair expense for each one of these. To leave them out permanently? No. But can they have that effect? Yes. So, that is one of the things we might have done. I don't know that we were even notified when this particular event occurred.
I don't believe.
I have no recollection of knowing about it.
I don't
That's
know.
why we don't even know what you're supposed to do.
The chief might be able to answer. I don't know how many complaints of aggressive behavior we have seen. I know the first, when you came to the council meeting, I'm sorry, what's your name? Guy. When you came to the council, that was the first time I ever heard that particular story.
And look, this is like less than a month, that's great, we're being proactive.
Right. Batty?
You say, because I answer the phone sometimes, and the guys at the desk always talk to me when we get calls. I don't know of any aggressive call that we've got in. I've gotten calls that coyotes have been close to people, didn't run away, ran away, but I haven't heard of anything being aggressive.
I just had a question. Do you know about how many we have in this animal park? Is there any way of, I know you can't physically count them because you don't know, they don't look any different from each other. Is there any?
I know that we have them in every one of the 36 municipalities that our division responds to.
You don't know?
In every single one. Now, coyote, according to my understanding, and certainly I will find out from Frank if I'm right or not, but my understanding is that their territory can run somewhere in the area of 30 square miles. Okay, if you look at Bergen County, and I have done this with bear in northern Passaic, I've seen one bear go through 6 towns in a period of 3 hours and result in over 150 sightings and calls. And was it 150 bear? No, it was one bear that was just moving at that speed. So it depends upon their food source. In other words, how available food is to them as to what range they're going to cover.
As for scaring them, we also, where we live, across the river is Rochelle Park's police shooting range. So they do their qualifying a couple weeks in May, a couple weeks in
They
October.
just finished.
Now, they were just doing it a couple weeks ago.
Right.
They're shooting. These coyotes are getting used to these sounds because they're not leaving the area. They may not be out while the shooting is going on. And I'm not saying that's a solution because that shooting makes my dogs
Freak out.
lose their hair and freak out. So, but it's not making them go away. So something like that. And also, is there a way we could post signs in the park? So that people who, because there are more than just Saddlebrook residents that go through that park. If you put up a sign that says, just be aware, there are coyote in the area, because I know there's people that don't know, and maybe if they saw it, if they had some sort of warning, maybe they wouldn't be as surprised, maybe they wouldn't be as nervous. You don't know that, but
No, you're absolutely correct with that, and I suggest contacting
Parks Department.
the director of the county parks department. That's something they should have everywhere. In the Ramapos, we have signs up about rattlesnakes, because it's their last domain left in northern New Jersey, and they are state protected. And absolutely, educational information.
I'll look into
and,
signage.
they're
But
not going
that
there.
requires the county parks department to do, certainly, that's a step that's now gonna be taken, all right, to reach out to them. As far as yes, gunfire can become white noise, though I have to wonder whether or not there is the feral cat problem
Oh, not anymore.
that existed.
We used to, but
The
not
complaints from the Rochelle Park, that neighborhood right around the firing range, because there was a massive quantity that we tried for years to resolve.
We had to be
And
honest.
I strongly suspect that's resolved that
But
now.
that's how we
This
use
is how the system works.
We're out in the yard and we don't see, I don't see squirrel, I don't see the normal creatures running around in the yard. 9 times out of 10, the coyotes are out.
Well, and this is where
And
I
that's when we
say,
see them.
because how many hours can you spend in
I
your
work
yard?
from my
You're
home.
not gonna be there 24/7.
I work from home. I
Okay.
used to sit out in my yard and work. Actually, I would have my dogs out in the yard and I'd sit out and I work. So I'm
Get
home
some water cannons.
24 hours a day.
Get some water cannons. I strongly suggest to everybody, think 3 times about pepper spray and talk to the chief, because I am fairly sure that should it get in any other person's eyes, totally by mistake, because you were trying to spray the coyote, it could be considered assault. So you need to be real careful with that stuff. It goes a long way on the wind. Okay, so here again, I say, in fact, there was a fox family that moved in by a school in Westwood, and what I suggested that the backyard do, because they were under a shed, I said, just bring a bucket of gravel up on your back deck, and every time you see them, just throw a couple pieces of gravel.
They don't really, because I actually have, well, I don't know if they're still in the hole. We have a foxhole in the yard too. We have 2 foxes. But they never caused any kind of a problem at all.
But again, what was it I said, what happened in Norwood?
Right.
Okay, if we don't lay claim to what is ours, Mother Nature's gonna provide somebody else to utilize it. And that's what happens, is these creatures will continue, just as squirrels move into houses, just like raccoons find chimneys.
Now, I
All of
called
these
the
things
county
happen
years ago
because
about the fox,
we
and
need
they told me
to.
they can't do anything.
Hmm?
I called the county, this had to be
Well, we
6
can't
years
remove
ago.
them.
Well, but I'm saying, you're saying that I should take back my property. I called and they said, unless they're exhibiting some sort of behavior or they're out during the day,
No,
if they're not bothering them,
we cannot
leave them alone.
remove them.
Right.
But that is not the same thing. That's not what I'm saying. It's not a question of our removing them. It's destroying the resource that they are utilizing so that they will move elsewhere of their own natural accord. So if you've got a fox den on your property, a fox den today is a coyote den next week. The groundhog hole today becomes dinner for the fox or the coyote and the den for the animal next week.
I'm responsible to take care of that, not you.
We
I
are
have to
each
look for the holes.
responsible for our own property, that is true. Along with the rights to our property comes the responsibility to our property. So if you have a den, you need to get it filled in, yes.
Are there fox babies there now?
Now, actually, I could tell you in.
Because if the coyotes are in the
First
yard,
time
the
I've
foxes
seen a
won't
fox,
den there.
it's probably been 6 years that we know that they've been there. I've probably seen them 3 times, and that was when they were fighting a cat in the middle of the night, a
Fox.
raccoon.
Foxes.
Yes, a fox, a raccoon, or just running up the street. I don't see them on a regular
All of these things are
basis.
resources to the animals.
Huh?
What I'm explaining is, they're after habitat, they're after shelter.
Right, but so now you're telling me
Yeah.
I should go out on my property and fill in a foxhole and fill in the
Well,
groundhog?
if you see no creatures using it at the moment, absolutely I would fill it in.
Okay, so as long as I know there's nothing.
And effectively, this is the
I'll do
time
it
of
for
year.
I mean, because we do, my property does go into the park too,
The
so I
thing-
have to also see what,
The thing
exactly
is,
where my property line is and where these animals are.
the thing is that foxes, the babies stay at the den the whole summer, whereas the coyotes outgrow the den. And the parents move them to a more
But this time
mobile
of
spot.
year, the fox will be out.
About 4 months,
Yeah,
old.
they'll be
haven't seen
out,
But
they'll be out and
they
running
stay
around.
within the vicinity of the den
But they'll
site.
be running around.
Right.
We
Well,
did
like-
see them
they'd be
once
visible.
in the park.
Like he was saying, fill the den up, this way they can't use it again.
Okay.
And if you, I'll do it for you. You know? What about using ammonia, just to,
No,
no?
Heaven forbid.
I don't want to put anything on my.
Okay, and when people say mothballs, I say, have you ever read the warning label on the side of the box? That's all you need to read and say, do I really want this in my drinking water? No. Mothballs, absolutely not. Ammonia is effectively urine.
Right.
And any chemical you put down, any chemical to perturb is going to wash away with the next rain, which is tomorrow.
Right.
We did get one day today without rain. It's going to rain again tomorrow. It's finding alternative deterrents.
And dog urine doesn't deter.
No, they're just gonna mark over.
They're going to mark over it because that's a challenge to them, which is why I said.
Does this river overflow at all? Sam?
Every time
Oh,
it
yeah.
Does overflow?
Every
You know,
single
that
rain.
also, you know, coyotes and fox look for dry places to have their dens. Sometimes they make poor choices, so if the water usurps them, they're gonna be more visible too. If you need me, you got my card, I'd be more than happy to help you, I'd be more than happy to help you. And you?
Yeah, these coyotes, do they keep the deer population down at all?
Coyotes in the northeast eat a lot of deer, but most of it is scavenging. This time of the year, well, not this time because the fawns are pretty mobile right now. But when the fawns are dropped earlier in the spring, they certainly supplement coyote babies with lots of protein. But there's so much deer, the densities of deer are so high that I've seen in Westchester where coyotes just wait for deer to get hit by cars. Because the DOT, there's so much deer in Westchester that the DOT just takes all the roadkill and throws them into the woods, and the coyotes just, you know, they're almost conditioned to it.
We don't do that here.
Well, you know, that is a good way in discouraging coyotes is that all roadkill, any source for scavenging large carcasses
Is
remove,
removed.
and that diminishes the amount of protein that the coyotes get. Right, so that also decreases the survivability of the young, because they don't have enough protein that the adults are trying to give them. So, but they'll never make a dent in the deer population.
We have a lot of deer in our park.
Yeah.
Well, yes, there's a lot of deer in the park, but they're quite mobile. The number one predator in the county is the family automobile. That is absolutely true. there is not a day that goes by that the officers are not picking up several dozen hit by car animals, deceased animals throughout the county, and seriously, and that's 365 days a year, all right? Deer are hit in huge quantities throughout the county. There's rarely a day that goes by that there are not 3 or 4 deer.
You can't hunt them in Bergen
Recently,
County.
they're not picking up a lot of
You can't hunt them in Bergen County.
Route 80, that's bodies rot.
State highway is state DOT. I will make that exception. Any of the state highways is the responsibility of the state DOT.
But they don't pick it up, I see
And
bodies.
but you're not gonna find, but the coyote are not going out on the state highways. So, otherwise they would become statistics just as quickly. Because certainly we have enough dog hit out there and enough other animals that are hit out there. But here is the other side of this coin, okay? And believe me, I understand the concerns. The coyote are holding down your groundhog population.
Not in my yard.
Better start charging rent. You guys pay rent.
Same thing with the deers.
The deer are there constantly. Right across,
think we had a
they walk
question
right
over here.
across the street.
Okay, you're saying that we have to be responsible for our own property. The property behind my house is town property.
Yes.
What can the town do then to take care of that area?
I think what we could do is, if with the coyote you're
Yeah.
speaking about, I think we could go in there and go in there with Frank, try to see what
I mean, there's not just coyote, there's raccoons back there, there's possums back there. I mean,
Can
we've all,
I say something?
Sure.
It's been there for years and years. We have a big rock back there.
Right.
We had a family,
Right.
a
I know, I
fox
grew up
family
there.
with the babies. Their heads used to pop up. The raccoons have been around. The raccoons
Right,
are
I know that.
46 and they get killed.
I know that, Karen, I've lived there my
I
whole
mean,
life.
I don't
I'm
see
just,
where those animals are
I'm
hurting
more
anything.
concerned about the coyote
But if there's a coyote there, fine.
There is.
Your grandson and everything, and the dog, that's fine. But all these other animals, I've been in South for 50 years, has been the same
But
thing.
because it's town property, we can.
Coyotes,
Take a better
there are
look
more
at it.
coyotes in this area than there ever were. And because all of these
Exactly.
animals are in that area, even though they've been there forever, the coyotes are going to that area to eat those animals.
I
So that's,
get a house
the
away
coyotes
from
were
her
there.
and from other neighbors here. I look out the window, I'm home, I have
No,
yet
I
to see a
understand that.
coyote. The fox I've seen, I've yet to see a coyote.
Well, I know
I
you
was
need
sitting
to see
outside
them.
on my front step, it came right up the block, past your house, stood right at the edge of my property and the Joyce's property.
We have deer on Madison Avenue too. I understand
I've never
those
seen a deer on
coyotes,
Madison.
but try what they're saying. Make the noise, take it back to Camden Mayor.
I understand that, but I also have a concern because I do have a backyard that faces it. I have a pool in the backyard. I do spend a lot of time in my backyard. And I'm concerned about it. And I have that right to be.
Yes, you should, but they're telling you what to do. I mean, there's.
Right, but I'm taking care of my property, that's town property.
It's been there for years.
You know, I'm in that park,
Small area.
I'm in that park every morning.
Area that's served.
I haven't seen a coyote down there in a year and a half. Now, I know they're down there because I've seen people take pictures of them and they show them to me. But I myself have never seen one in a year and a half. I used to see them quite often. A couple of years ago, you know, I've seen 4 or 5 of them at a time, one morning. I haven't seen one for how long? A long time. We're there early.
The coyotes in Saddlebrook came after, this is my opinion, the coyotes in Saddlebrook where we live came after Hurricanes Irene and Sandy, according to my own sightings and statements from other residents around Saddle River State Park. Prior to this time, they were neither seen nor heard by us. Since this time, we, early morning park users, have noticed 2 separate locations of possible dens on both sides of the river in between the Red Mill and Railroad Avenue entrance to the pathway. One den is in the woods by the Rochelle Park pool in back of the Windsor Court Apartments. The other is adjacent to the micrographics facility behind Hudson's Bay Realty on Saddle River Road. After Hurricane Sandy, my wife went out running in the early morning with our dog. On the way back, she was encircled by 3 coyotes. The middle one creeped forward as the other 2 tried to attack my dog from the sides. My wife took a branch and beat the animals away while walking backwards. She managed to get away, but the damage was done. Our dog would hide under the bed each morning to this day, not to have to go back out there in the morning. Told you it was emotional. The coyotes have been threatening park users ever since. This type of stalking has been happening to other dog walkers more frequently. Almost everyone I know at the park has experienced this in one way or another. Maybe not almost everyone. Recently, their actions are becoming more aggressive, and consequently, people are beginning to use the park less. The coyotes are also expanding their territory by making rounds within the neighborhood, searching through garbage cans and stalking pets in their yards. This is behavior that, if allowed to continue, will lead to attack on a pet or a human. Right after the incident about 3 years ago, I called the police department. Their response was that nothing can be done till the animal attacks a human or pet. I called the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection in Newark, and they repeated the policy of do nothing till something happens. I did research and found that this is basically the policy statewide. So now my proposal for coyote management in Saddlebrook. The goal of the proposal is to create a plan that is effective, efficient, economical, and sustainable. We have coyotes that have been familiarized and desensitized to our activities. The residents have not been educated on coexistence with these animals, which creates an advantage for the coyotes, as you were saying. Any effort on managing the situation without educating the public and changing human behavior, along with removing the nuisance coyotes that have been accustomed to humans, will be a wasted effort. New coyotes will eventually return, define their territory, become accustomed to human behavior, and become nuisance animals again. In order to reset the clock to a pre-Sandy situation, the town should implement both indirect and direct management strategies. Number 1, inform the public that we have a problem, along with other towns in our area, by means of a letter from the town and social media. 2, ask the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection to educate the community on coexistence with coyotes with the goal of creating a negative environment for the coyotes to coexist with humans. Have the county install signs warning park users of the dangers of coyotes and steps to avoid conflicts. 4, conduct a survey of the coyotes in our town and adjacent areas that are within the den's territory. Remove all coyotes in our area. There shouldn't be too many at this point. When new coyotes fill the void that was created by removal of the initial packs that have been desensitized, the community should implement the negative stimuli program presented by the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. We should monitor the activities of new coyotes and ensure the negative stimuli program is working, and remove nuisance coyotes when warranted. This is a rough outline of what my limited research into dealing with this pervasive and possibly dangerous problem. Almost all towns are dealing with this in one form or another. Studies have shown that removing selected coyotes from a pack can have the opposite effect of reducing their numbers. The pack can respond to the stress of losing a member by overbreeding to compensate for their loss. That is why I suggest we remove the whole pack and allow the transient coyotes that relocate to our area to coexist with us and not the other way around. I think this is basically everything that you guys have been saying, except one part is different. We need to get rid of the coyotes that are here, that are aggressive, that are going into people's backyards and fighting, okay? And I understand you guys are from environmental control, and you don't have the authority to kill animals or shoot animals, but the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection does. So there are leading indicators, that kind of show that there's a problem. We've experienced all of them. So now, I think it's time that we take a proactive response, get rid of the ones that are causing problems. If it means taking out these 2 packs in our neighborhood, fine. But I know it's hard, I didn't know about this whole trapping thing. Because, when you read information, it says, just trap them, this and that. But, that's to Long Island. But, there are seasons for trapping coyotes. there's a coyote trapping season, and coyotes get trapped all the time. You know, and not many, according to like percentage-wise in the population, but, and I don't know the research, I'm not a professional, but if we trap these coyotes, and from what you said, and I believe you, that it's impossible to trap them, but they do trap them, and we know exactly where they are, and they're not running away. And they're not running, and I tell you many stories of I've seen I'm on one side of the river, on the other side of the parking lot, the pack is bigger. And in the mornings, they would lure dogs would bark, they'd run away, then come back and get them, and people just have stopped using this park. And they're frightened, and guys, you know, union electricians, big guys, freaked out. And I don't know, do you have a dog?
I have dogs, yeah.
I mean,
I've
not the
actually-
ones
I-
from Africa.
I actually,
Not the dogs from Africa, I'm just saying. Have you had a coyote
is
encounter
this
with
sense of
your dog?
humor from Long Island or while you were living
No.
in?
No, it's all Long Island, thank you. Did
I
you
do
ever,
have
have
dogs,
you
and
ever?
I have walked my dogs through Bork's Woods where there was an active den. I find you credible, my friend. I'm not denying any of your
Thanks, bro.
experiences. All right, bro.
Okay.
That's why I'm here. I'm here to
I
help
know,
you.
and
Right.
if you listen to what I said,
Right.
everything you say,
Right.
I agree with.
Right.
Except that all these nuisance things that we've talked about are not working because we do it. Some of us do, not everybody. The indirect management strategies, okay, this is all from different research places. Management programs for urban coyotes should begin with public education and untangling facts from myths. People should become aware of the coyote signs, this and that. Some people are enamored by coyotes, they think they're tame, it should be discouraged. Now the direct management strategies are: 1, lethal removal. There are instances where coyote habituation is so severe that the coyote can be considered an immediate threat to people, especially children and pets. This has happened in New Jersey where kids got taken out of their own, I don't know where that lady went, but she's concerned with her grandkids in her backyard. It happens if we don't do the right things. This is when the removal is often warranted. Lethal removal is accomplished either through trapping, euthanasia, or direct shooting. Coyotes are difficult to trap or shoot, and these actions should be undertaken strictly by professionals, especially in urban areas. Removal efforts should observe state and municipal codes. Because of habituation, nuisance coyotes are often easier to capture than non-habituated individuals. Removal programs designed to target specific nuisance coyotes will be more successful than broad removal programs that have a goal of removing a complete population of coyotes. It is difficult to capture all coyotes residing in an area. As coyotes are removed, they are replaced by solitary ones. Okay, this is what I'm saying. We remove these ones that we know that are here, and then we train the ones that come in to replace them how to live with us. Not the other way around. There's relocation, there's negative stimuli. There's everything we talked about. I don't want to go on. But there are reasons to remove them. And I think we have the lead indicators that are like, basically, I wouldn't say one step from, I don't want to scare everyone, but let's start over. Let's reset the clock and let the coyotes that come in that are new learn how to deal with us. And because the mayor started this is great. I had never expected this in 3 weeks to happen. So this is a good start.
Thank you very much, everybody.
If you didn't pick one of these up.